Good afternoon. My name is Brigette Tubbs-Jones, and I was a panelist at today's event and a speaker, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I came to engage and inspire, and then in turn, I was inspired by the other speakers. Wonderful, wonderful event. Thank you so much.
And politics are inextricably linked because what happens in one area significantly impacts the other, and vice versa. And it's not a sometimes or every once in a while, it's always. So that's why we need strong candidates. So I hope today that you are inspired to live business. And I use LIVE as an acronym for lead, innovate, be a visionary, and be empowered. So to lead, everybody in this room is a leader on some level, or you would not be here. So we have that responsibility to not only lead in our areas of expertise in our business, but also in our communities and with our young girls, because they are tomorrow's leaders. And so it's our job to make sure that they are prepared. And I'm sure most of you have heard the phrase, girls can't be what they can't see. So it's up to us to be that for them, to be the role models, for them to say, she did it, I can do it too. So the I in LIVE is for innovate. So as a current or potential business owner, our goal should be to constantly strive to be the best and to beat our competition. And to do that, we have to come up with new or more efficient ways to offer our products and services. So while we should celebrate our successes, we should never become complacent and comfortable. We should always be thinking about how we're going to get better, how we're going to better serve our customers. And technology is key in the innovation piece. The V in LIVE, be a visionary. So like I said, whether you're a seasoned business professional or you're brand new, you should have a vision for your business. You should know where you want your business to be in the next 5 to 10 years. You should have a plan for sustainability of your business as well. So your business mission should help you, should detail the steps to achieve your vision. And lastly, the E in LIVE is for empowerment. Be empowered. Take risk. Be confident in your abilities and skills to accomplish not only your professional, but your personal goals as well. So if you know that you're weak in a certain area and you need additional training, do that. Take that and make that investment in yourselves, because it truly is worth it. And once you're empowered, your responsibility at that point becomes to empower others. That may be your staff or your other business partners that you collaborate with. So I inspire you all to live business, lead, innovate, be a visionary, and be empowered. Thank you so much and welcome.
Hi, my name is Patricia H. Wesson, and I am the Chief Advocate of Contracts for Women Advocacy Incorporated. And I want you to know today we had a wonderful, fabulous, very productive time. The only thing that was missing was you.
Good morning, everyone. First, let me say how happy I am this morning. One is because Senator Harper is here. I mean, phenomenal. I have worked with her on numerous things, and I tell you, she's a very hard-working, concerned individual. And if you do have an opportunity to vote, then of course, go to it. Okay? My name is Patricia H. Wesson. How many of you have ever had a vision? Ever had a vision? Well, Contracts for Women Advocacy is a vision. In 1992, I started my first business, and I went in business, and I went to this procurement workshop, And I was there with my products and my services and everything. And I was told politely by one of the buyers that said, Patricia, you have a great product, but we really don't need what you have today. But nicely, she said to me, but if you can help us find women business owners, if you can help us find women business owners, then we'll give you a contract. Well, that was 1992. So you may ask, well, why are we here today? But we're here because we've been here too long. The economic status of women-owned businesses in Tennessee is still below acceptability. When I was president of the National Association of Women Business Owners, that was in 2000, I took a role that brought about a lot more awareness about where we were as far as contracts as women business owners. And then in 2005, I took another job that brought me here to Nashville, where I became the Director of Certification for the Governor's Office of Diversity, which brought me closer to seeing the concerns that we have with identifying women in certain areas for contract opportunities, not just for the government, but corporate contract opportunities, and also how we're missing out on so many opportunities that we don't have to miss out on. And then recently, what happened was there was an SBA mandate signed that blew my mind, and it was where women in certain businesses, over 300 industries, had the opportunities where they could go into these industries and get these set-asides and just really bring their businesses from one level to the other. So the vision came about, not just this year, but last year. So we need an advocacy. We need someone to bring women together. We need someone to bring our representatives together. We need someone to bring our state leaders, our women organization leaders together so that we can come about and start establishing a strategy so that we can create economic prosperity for our women business owners. But I'm not here to give you a sob story, a gloom about the status or the impact, economic impact on women-owned businesses in Tennessee. What I'm here to do is to give you a forecast, a projection on where we will be and what the forecast is. And that forecast is sunny and prosperous. And I feel really, really good about that. And that's why this event is here today, is to empower, to educate, and to also begin the dialogue and the planning process to creating more business opportunities, creating more prosperity, creating more contract opportunities for women business owners in Tennessee. So how do women business owners impact the economy? And I hope all of you have one of these pens. Do you have an Empower USA pen? Okay. What happens is when we empower others, we empower USA. So the pen says Empower USA. So when we empower businesses, what happens is that we create additional income for the state, whether it's in taxes or whether it's by bringing in more businesses, giving other businesses opportunities. We generate cash. In Tennessee, women business owners generated $24,933,300,000 from 1997 to 2013. That's a lot of money. As far as salaries, the people that businesses employed, women business owners are who I'm talking about. We provided employment to over 117,800 people in Tennessee. And so what happens is when we pay these individuals, they go out, right? And then they purchase things, okay, which creates, they might purchase it from one of your businesses. How many businesses we have, business owners we have in here? Okay, you may have benefited from some of those purchases. So that's how the impact goes. So what we want to do today is that we want to have the forum to begin to develop the plan. If we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So today we start to plan for increased revenue growth and employer firms of Tennessee women-owned businesses. So the real question is, since we have been noted in Tennessee, I'm sure most of you saw it, but we were ranked the 14th leading state for growing women-owned businesses. So the question is, ma'am, how do we go from being a state that's known for starting businesses, and I did say growing, but we're known for starting women-owned businesses. So how do we go from a state known for starting women-owned businesses to a state where we have the highest revenue growth and sustainability of women-owned employer firms? So that's where we want to be in Tennessee. Right now, I want to tell you that we have the resources needed. Today we have SBA here, not just SBA, but the SBA Deputy District Director of Tennessee. And we have the support we need. We have the lending we need. We have Lane Rose, that's here. I've known Lane for a long time. So we have the money, okay? We have the support of the women business owners organizations, the National Association of Women Business Owners. We have business and professional women here. We have even the Girl Scouts that are represented outside and others. So we're there. We have the state of Tennessee here, the director of the whole state, Wesson. She's here. She's here to show support for a vision or a mission to help get women business owners to the state where we should be. So right now, what I'd like to do without taking more time, I'd like to introduce our SBA Deputy Director, LaTanya. Chanel. LaTanya is our Deputy District Director of the United States Small Business Administration. And she is with a staff based here in Nashville. And she will come up and she'll give you a few more words about herself. But basically, she wants to give you an overview of the new opportunity that has been presented to us through the SBA and under President Obama's reign. Thank you.
Hi, this is LaTanya Channer with SBA's Small Business Administration Office in Tennessee. I'm so happy to be here today and make sure that women are capital ready, make sure women are contract ready, and make sure we provide information on training and technical assistance to small business owners. Go women business owners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to see you. This is literally my second full week on the job and my third full week in the state of Tennessee. I'm actually born and raised in the city up north where a lot of things happen every day, but I'm not exactly sure a lot of things get done. Washington, D.C. And that's actually my home. I didn't move to Washington, D.C. for a career. I was born there, raised there, and it just so happens I met a man a few years ago from the lovely state of Georgia, and his last name is Chanel. I know Patricia introduced me as Chanel. It just so happens that his family comes from Louisiana, and they do say Chanel in Louisiana. He's from Georgia, so he told me I had to say Chanel. I like Chanel, so you can choose whatever you like. But I'm excited to be here. I was telling some of the women over there, this is actually my inaugural event in the state of Tennessee as the Deputy Director for the Small Business Administration. I did have one other event. I don't see Mary Mary Hohen. I see her on the agenda, but I don't see her in the room. I met her a couple of weeks ago. But this is my inaugural event, so you guys are, kind of like my guinea. But I will say this. I see these whiteboards back here. Do you mind if I write on them? Because if you give me a whiteboard, I'm going to write on it. And I have my little cheat sheet. I'm going to write on it. Is this yours? I like mine. Okay, I love it. Okay, I'm going to erase it. So, oh, perfect. Yeah, it's a blank. Oh, gosh, that's dangerous. Did you give me a blank one? Yeah, so I have couple of questions. How many people are actually in business? Hands raised. Okay, so that means you have corporate filings with the state, right? Keep your hand up if that's the case. Okay, hands down. How many of you have a business plan? Left hand. Okay. How many of you actually review that business plan periodically, update it, change it, use it as a roadmap? Fewer hands. Okay. How many of you have ever heard of WOSB? Okay. Now, I did say I'm from Washington, right? And I'm from Washington, and I'm here to help you. You've heard that phrase before? I really mean it. So today I want to go over some acronyms because I want to make sure that everyone is aware of what you need to do to enter into federal contracting. So I saw a few hands that go up, and because you know in Washington we use acronyms all the time. We throw them out. Hey David, how you doing? David is actually on our staff, and he's an expert in all the things that I'm about to relate to you today.
We have a table outside.
Perfect. So some of you have heard of WOSB, and I'm going to use the board. And I think I have 15 minutes, so at about 12 minutes, somebody needs to stop. Has anyone ever heard of 8A? Fewer hands. Anyone in here 8A certified or have been? One? Oh, we've got some work to do. Anyone in here actually certified, and I use quotation marks, as WOSB? Okay, I'll explain why I say it's in quotation marks. Was that 2 hands? Okay, so we got some work to do. Is this written down? ED, WOSB, for those who know their names? Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to keep writing on the board. Has anyone heard of 8M? I'm kind of glad you haven't, but I'll explain it to you in a minute. Has anyone heard of 7J? And all these things are important for federal contracts, and I'll explain it to you in a minute. We have one former 8A firm, is that my understanding? Okay, and we have...
Totally different name, by the way.
Say it again?
Not under this name.
No problem. And we have 2 that are certified in quotation marks with WOSB. Okay, so we got some work to do. So I might not write all of my acronyms, but let me just explain real quickly. WOSB stands for the Women-Owned Small Business Program. It's essentially a certification for women-owned business who desire to engage in federal contracts. And let me say desire to engage. David and I had this conversation in the office yesterday. And one of the things I said to him is, we want to make sure that businesses are contract ready. I know those in the lender world always want to make sure folks are borrower ready and credit ready. Well, we want to make sure that you're contract ready. So there are a lot of acronyms out there. There are a lot of requirements. There's a lot of things that you need to know to be contract ready. And one of the things we're going to do over the next few months is put on some more workshops just so you can understand all those acronyms and all those things you have to do to actually be able and ready to enter into the federal contracting world. As you can imagine, it's paper intensive and it takes, she knows, a lot of time. So just real briefly, I want to talk to you today about the different certification programs. And I'm going to write some numbers on the board. 23, 5, 5, 3, and 3. These represent, now all these things I'm going to relate to you are by statute. They're all in the Small Business Act, which means Congress said to the Small Business Administration, and not just to the Small Business Administration, but every single agency in the federal government, you need to get contracts to small businesses. So the 23 represents 23% of all federal government contracts must go to small business. 23%. We're going to talk a little bit how you represent as a small business. 5% of all government contracts must go to what's called small disadvantaged business. The acronym is SDB. This is all small. 5% must go to women. No acronym needed. 3% must go to, that's the H and the Z, HubZone. Have anyone heard of HubZone? Perfect. Is anyone HubZone certified? Ooh, what's your name? Sandy can teach you all everything we're talking about today. I love it. Okay? 3% must go to HubZone certified businesses. And 3% must go to service-disabled, veteran-owned small business. The connection between all of those percentages, small business. Now, when you look at the Small Business Administration's website to define what a small business is, you'd be surprised. You're looking at businesses that are up to 500 employees and businesses that may go up to $23 million in revenue. So what's small, you gotta know what that means when you look at it. But know this, how do you get certified, and I say certified, in those categories so you can get ready for federal government contracting? Well, I'm here to tell you, to be small, you do not have to submit an application to my agency to go out there and gain access to small business contracts. You represent in a system, and I'm not going to write any more acronyms down there, but you all are writing pretty, you all like good students. There's a system called, I can't resist, SAM. S-A-M. This is what we do in Washington. We give you acronyms. It's called the System for Award Management. If you desire to engage in federal contracting and you actually get a contract, you cannot get a federal government contract unless you are registered in that system first. Okay? And again, 23% of all small businesses, of all federal government contracts has to go to businesses that are considered small. You do not have to submit an application. 5% has to go to businesses that are considered small, disadvantaged businesses. Now, for those who understand what 8A is, 8A businesses fall into the category of small, disadvantaged businesses. Now, if you've ever heard of the 8A program, know that the application process is intense. Again, if you're small and you meet the criteria for small, no application required. If you desire to submit to the 8A program, the application process can be this big, but guess what? I'm from the government, I'm here to help you. We're going to start holding workshops to help you go through that application process if it's something that you desire to do. Next category, for which I'm here to talk about today, women. The application, there is no application. It's not like engaging in federal contracting as if you're saying that you are small. It's not like engaging in federal contracting as if you are 8A or a small disadvantaged business where you have to submit documents that might be this big to our agency in order to become certified. To engage in federal contracting as what's called a WOSB or women-owned small business, or what's called an ED, WOSB, economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, you have two options. There's something called a repository on the SBA.gov WOSB website. Now, we do have handouts, just so you know, so you don't have to capture everything that I'm saying. We have some handouts out on the tables. We have a great reference guide out on the table called, that basically goes over all these programs and goes over the federal contracting process. But you have two options if you desire to engage in federal contracting as a women-owned small business. You can go to our website and there are certain documents that you have to upload into what we call a repository. You're done. Or you can go to, there are 4 different entities that SBA has approved that you can go to and you pay a fee to them so that they give you a certificate as being a certified WOSB or EDWOSB business. Again, first option, you can do it on your own. Second, you can go to an entity. What does that mean? That means when a contracting officer sets aside, does anyone know what set aside means? Perfect, I got a lot of hands. Essentially, it means for all those different categories, 23% small, 5% SDB, small disadvantaged businesses, 5% women, 3% HubZone, and 3% service-disabled veteran-owned small business. A contracting officer who is an employee in a federal agency has the responsibility to say whether or not this particular contract is going to be open for any and everyone. That's typically called a full and open competition. Or is it only going to be limited to small business? Because I have a goal to meet my 23%, I'm gonna limit this contract to small businesses only. Or I could limit it to women-owned small business. See my hands go like this? Smaller group that's eligible. Women-owned small business or economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. So a contracting officer makes that decision, and when they make that decision, and if you happen to be the lucky one who gets the word that contract, then you have to be in that repository. Again, remember what I said about the 8A and also 8A application. You have to submit it, and there's a 9-year process, she knows it, of what you have to do to maintain your 8A certification. For WOSB, it's not that. Now, what are the requirements to become, how much time do I have?
Just about that.
Just about 5 more minutes. I think I can do it in 3. And again, we have the handouts that go through it very thoroughly. Requirements to be considered a WOSB or an ED, which is economically disadvantaged, WOSB. The business has to be owned at least 51% by easy, a woman, or more than one woman. The business also has to show, in addition to ownership, and of course, that's your corporate documents. In addition to ownership, you have to show that the firm is controlled by easy women, one or more women. What does control mean? Control means day-to-day operations, and it also means long-term decision plans, okay? The women who own and control a women-owned small business has to be a U.S. citizen, okay? And the last requirement to be considered WOSB is it has to be considered small. And again, if you look at the SBA website and the materials out there tell you how to do that, you look for what's called an NAICS code. Once again, I'm from Washington, I'm here to help you with the acronyms. NAICS, North American Industry Classification System. So if I'm a contracting officer and I have a contract and I've decided in order to meet our goals for women-owned small business, economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, I'm going to make this contract only limited to those firms that are in that repository as such. Well, I also have to say, when I announce that in what's called a solicitation, what's the industry? And there's a classification code for that, and it's a number. 4 digits, 6 digits. Now, when Patricia mentioned that there was a groundbreaking piece of regulation that came out, it actually was passed in 2000, but we did not issue the regulations until 2011. And essentially what those regulations say is that there are over 300 different 6-digit codes, 6-digit NAICS codes. And when you look at those codes, that's where you determine if you're small or not. But there are over 300 different codes where if you're in that repository as a women-owned small business or an economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, you are eligible. And that contract has to be set aside in those industries to make those contracts accessible to you. Over 300 different industries. One second. Just the other day, it was on Wednesday, our administrator was at the Senate, and there was another report that was issued on women entrepreneurs. And she's calling for a study. She's actually hired a vendor who's going to look at a study to see if we need to expand those industries. Because the study was initially done in 2007, so it's quite old. So there's a question as to whether or not we need more than 300 industries out of those 600 names. Yes, ma'am.
When you look at those code numbers out of the 300, depending on what your area of expertise, there are different ways to evaluate which code you want to use. So in the material available, does it explain to you what is in each of those code concentration, each of those numbers? Does it give you an informational description about what that code applies to other than just one line?
Great question. That is not any information out there because it would be a book this big, but it is on SBA.gov. And if you look under size standards, because the NAICS code, we call them NAICS codes, NAICS codes We use those to determine if you're small. So if you look under the side standards, it gives you about at least a paragraph description for each and every industry. But that's a great question. But let me also let you be aware of this. You use that code to determine what's your primary industry. Like, what's the primary area of business that the firm is engaged in? You use that to determine if you're small. But that does not mean that you cannot do work in other industries or other codes. Okay? So when you see that announcement from the contracting officer for a particular code, you're going to have to show you can do the work in it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's your primary. So I think I have 1 more minute.
No.
How much time do I have?
The panel is going to come up and make an ask.
Okay, perfect.
Ask more questions.
So it looks like we have a lot of work to do in my office and also using our resource partners. Has anyone ever heard of SBDC? Small Business Development Center? Have you been to one? No. Those are our partners that help you with the nitty-gritty of your business plan, with the nitty-gritty of making sure you're ready to be in contracting, also with the nitty-gritty of making sure you're ready also to go for lending. Yes, ma'am.
On these contractors that set these aside, whether they know small business or hub zone, do they have to have 3 people in a hub zone for it to go hub zone certified?
Do they have to have 3 people?
3 potential bidders.
So you're talking about the rule of 2.
What's the law school password?
Well, I was told 3.
It's 2.
Do they have to have 2 to be able to set it aside after they do their search?
The rule of 2 applies to every single category. And if they can find 2 potential businesses that fall into this category of women-owned business, they're allowed to set it aside. And what that means is, since you're a little bit more experienced, before they announce the contract, they do something called a sources sought. And if you all don't go out there and say, hey, I can do this work, they have an argument they could find. I think my time is up.